Boy, we are getting better and better at that time, aren't we? Hello and welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Chill to Action on the Call to Action Network with me. It's your girl, Danny Joy, here with my favorite co-host, as always, Mr. Paul Denuzio.
It's me, it's PLD, and I'm so happy to be here on this Monday, our 48th episode. I can't believe it's 48 episodes in.
Check it. I can't believe it either. I can't believe that we've missed, so in this entire calendar year so far, we've missed 2 weeks, and that's it. So it's nuts. I think we took 1 week off for Christmas, and then we took the respective week off in June. So
true, very true. And in that time, we've had 0 repeat guests, which has been kind of cool thing for us to do. There's the asterisk. We did have Brett Sheridan on, and then 1 week we had Zaflirt and Flaus on. But that was kind of us. I think there's an asterisk there. I don't think that really counts against us because they're 2 different people, 2 different personalities, right?
And we do add that to the total count of the show. So the Flaus episode is a part of those total 48 episodes.
The canon.
It's okay. It's fine. Did you say it's canon?
It's canon. It's Chill to Action.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul is 100% correct. It is canon. Really is.
Well, then you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, y'all.
Honor.
I am super excited to have this person on. This has been a long time coming. We've really tried to reach out and get this planned and started, and we cannot wait to bring in the one, the only, y'all, the android, Mr. Marc and Draco.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
How are we doing today?
Good. Where are you guys? What coast are you guys on, or what time zone are you guys in?
I'm central, so I'm in Texas.
And I'm in upstate New York. I'm in upstate New York, so I'm Eastern Standard.
Okay, so it's 11:30 for you?
It's 11:30 for me, yes. But nice. I work overnights generally anyway, so I'm a night owl as it is.
And what does time mean anymore anyways? When this is all done, I want a new calendar, I want new times, I want to auction off who gets to name what a day is. I want a day to be 36 hours instead of 24. Why not?
Why not? We could do anything we want at that point. That's what I'd say.
We really can.
Get rid of daylight savings completely. Never have to worry about that again.
Well, we all might be working in the crops pretty soon because there's not going to be any other jobs left. So we might want to put a pin in the whole daylight savings thing.
That's not. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
There you go. Marc, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us on this Chill to Action on Monday. As always, we like to ask our guests the same question as the first question every time they're on here. So, Marc, what got you involved with the Schmoedown? How did you get involved in this league, and what kept you inside of the Schmoedown?
I have no recollection of how I did it. I think it was because I'd done a bunch of movie fights. And Hal Rudnick is a good friend of mine. I've known Hal for, 17, 18 years. And we did a show every month at Upright Citizens Brigade called the Tournament of Nerds. And he was a competitor. And I think he just gave them my name, or they saw me on an episode of Movie Fights. So when I walked in that building, I had never seen an episode of the Schmoedown. I was like, "You're going to fight this guy Bibiani?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a trivia game." And then he came out in a bloody jumpsuit with a chainsaw, and I was like, "What in the world is this?" But it's great. It's been a blast. It's super fun. Being good at movie trivia makes me glad I was never good at being an athlete, because I get so hyper competitive that I would be the athlete that would probably have played with like the broken leg and died on the field, because I sometimes get annoyed with myself. I have a couple friends that won't play celebrity with me. They're like, "No, you're too intense." Because I'll be like, "You have 3 seconds too." No. It's ridiculous. But
that's the type of gameplay that I very much enjoy. So yeah,
commitment's passion. You gotta love passion. Right. Anything you do. So you've been here now. You actually got a very interesting vantage point because you weren't there in the beginning, but you're also not a rookie anymore. You got a kind of grizzled vet halfway through, so you got to see where it was and where it's going. How did that transition has been as far as like when you came to league to where we are now with the whole draft and more sports feel to it? What are your take on how it's gone?
I just kind of let Christian do what Christian wants to do, and just tell me when and where I need to show up and who I'm playing with or against. the whole soap opera dynamic of it is hilarious, and it's fascinating what people believe and what people don't believe, and there's a learning curve to it. It took me a while to realize what it was. I mean, I didn't like Ben Bateman or Andrew Ghai until like a year after I was playing, because I'm not a wrestling person, so I was like, oh, these guys are just dicks in suits. And then at Sam Levine's birthday party about a year later, Ben and I were in the bar, just talked for like 2 hours, and he and Drew were like two of my favorite people, but also he's fun to compete with because I beat him. So
this is gonna be a fun. If you're gonna talk like that about Ben Bateman throughout this episode, then this is gonna be a very fun episode. So we're gonna have a great time. So we love hearing those stories about people kind of tripping out about Ben and Drew. This is an Action Army podcast. We've been fans of Drew and Ben for a very long time and their character work. And we love to hear those stories about people being surprised about meeting them in person and then finding out that they are absolutely not their characters. Was there anyone else inside of the league that you had that little aha moment with or about?
No, not really, because I think when I was first coming in, Drew and Ben were the only two that were like really aggressively leaning into the heel thing. I mean, there's the Bob Gucci Finstock stuff, but Tom's just a nitwit. You just laugh at it. I say that with love, but I mean, Tom is about as threatening as the chicken hawk to Foghorn Leghorn. You're like, get away from me, kid! You bother me. But yeah. I mean, and then seeing like Snyder and JTE, but that's Snyder. That's just who he is. So, but yeah, they were the only two that really shocked me. That I was like, oh, okay, now I get it, because they were so the complete opposite of the characters they play.
Very much so. Well, now you talked about it liking to play Ben, and I think you mentioned liking to play Bibbs as well. I mean, what about it? Those two guys have like made it fun for you compared to everything else? Just because you mentioned them specifically.
Well, Bibbs is my the first competitor I ever played against, and to show you how far the game has come. When that first match, I think that was Bibbs' first match too. Even though I lost, I was the third highest scoring player ever in a singles match to that point. So after it was over, everyone was like, oh my God, this was a crazy match. And I'm like, oh, 20, I didn't know what the points meant and all that. So, and then not too long after that was my first free for all,
right?
With that clearing the table, which was, if you look at the video, when I got that, we had in front of the competitors, a wall of monitors. There were 5 monitors for each person's score. And I was in the middle, so it said 4, 4, 4, 4, 5. But I didn't think about what the numbers meant. I saw 4 numbers, 4 shapes, and 1 shape, and I just assumed I was the one that was knocked out. So if you watch the tape, you can see me be like, and I go, oh, and then I start playing it up. But
that is my absolute favorite moment I've ever witnessed in the Schmoedown. I've been a longtime fan of this. It's been my favorite. That's
going to be the last scene they show in my memorial video. It'll be me going like this, waving to people, and then it'll pause. And
the end.
I would love it. Oh my gosh, that moment was so much fun to see. You were also a part of another really fun moment for a lot of fans inside of the Schmoedown, and that's the Finn Draco match.
Which I had 102-degree fever.
Oh,
yeah. That's not an excuse. But I had the flu. I was really sick, and but how like your first, when your boss asks you to come in and work an extra shift, and it's your first week on the job, you're going to take it. So I don't remember that match at all. I'm surprised. Gucci's got the strongest immune system in the world, because he watched it after I wore that mask. Because I literally, my fever was like 101.6 when I left to go to the studio that day, and I just took a bunch of aspirin and just powered through it. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. But that's a match I can watch and be like, oh, that's not me. I never saw this one before.
Wow, I can't believe it was 102 fever in that mask too. That match made it just so much worse.
That probably broke the fever, actually. Some weird Dagnino funk cured me or something.
Yeah.
He does have all his weird oil or oregano things he uses. You never know what he's got in there.
Yes.
Yeah, we heard
Some
of the mythical
craft beer, e-cigarette.
Yes, that. Exactly.
That could definitely be it. Where he got it from, you don't want to know. Like somewhere in Croatia or something.
We can just assume Tom is patient zero for most things. It's just a safe bet.
That's very true. Very true. Well, you got your tournament matches coming up now. You got your match against Matt Atchity coming up. How do you feel about that one? I think it'd be a good fun match.
Good. I like Matt a lot. I think I probably have the edge statistically just because I played so many more singles matches than he's done. This is, I believe, going to be his second time playing a singles match ever. I think he played one once before, and that was pre-me, so that was late 2016, early 2017. Matt's a smart guy. There are things that Matt doesn't know. There are some blind spots that I think, but overall, I think he's an underrated player. I think he underrates himself. I think he doesn't realize how good he is. So I never take anybody for granted. And generally, my whole mantra is, as long as the match is high scoring and close, I don't mind losing. It's just you don't want to be the Super Bowl when it's 42-0 in the first quarter and that's the score for the rest of the game. You want it to be neck and neck and neck. And like there were some, like the pay-per-view stuff this weekend was insane.
Yes.
The Smets Chandru, and I don't even like Intergeekdom because Intergeekdom is minutia and a whole different type of memorization. I'm not insulting it, but that's not fun for me. If I'm going to use up that much bandwidth in my brain, I'm going to read about like forensic or like physics or something. I'm not going to need to know the thread count of Frodo's jacket in scene 2 of the extended edition of Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring.
Heck yeah.
Great that you know that. And and I know some scary, ridiculous minutia too, but I like it being more like we're playing in a bar, and I like to study a little just to shake things up. But I don't have binders and that sort of thing. That's just antithetical to why I do this. It's just for me, the moment it becomes that, the moment it's not fun anymore. And as if you work in entertainment, the experiences when you can watch something as a viewer and not as someone who's breaking it apart. When I see a movie or a TV show where I'm so lean into it and I'm not worried about the writing or the directing or what the casting choice was, those get rarer and rarer because it's my job. I'm a writer. So I'm going to instantly, whether I want to or not, look for things or how I would fix it or what that and that sort of thing. That's just what we do. So to be able to do something without that is so rare and so glorious. It's the same thing with the Schmoedown. I'll study, we studied with the Shire Wolves. We'd have wine and cheese and do trivia cards, and it would be an event. It wasn't let's cram for the SAT. The moment it crosses that threshold for me is the moment I'll probably retire because I have enough stressful things in my life that I don't go after. I don't need to add any more. I don't know if that answers the question. So.
No, I think I
will say real quick that actually that is a very better eloquent answer to not liking Intergeekdom than your partner did, for example, on backstage.
Well, that's just him. I mean, there are no hidden ingredients on that label.
Not at all. And we love him for it. It's just the way he is. You got to take it for what he is. But go ahead, Danny. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say that's it's completely reasonable to say that about Intergeekdom because we all know that division is definitely tougher in a different way. So it's respect.
Absolutely. Well, Marc, you know your other side of you as a writer in comic books and everything else. Well, can you tell us how you first got into comic books? Like, was it a child thing?
As a kid, when I was 3.5 years old, my older cousin read them, and when you're a little kid, and you see someone you think is cool doing something, you copy it. So I learned how to read from Spider-Man comics and Sesame Street when I was like 4 years old. So I've been reading comics. I've been in the comics industry as a reader for 46 years now.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you have any favorite characters? Like, what your favorite characters were growing up?
Spider-Man, definitely. Because he was a kid who was smart and nerdy and wore glasses, and no one really knew how cool he was. So yeah, absolutely, Spider-Man.
I am on the lower end of the comic side. I'm definitely trying to get into it, trying to get more into comics and into different types. I've found that there's this huge, giant world of different things out there. And I want to bring up this super chat really quickly from Mike Deacon. Bethany and I send love to everyone. Mark, tell us all about your Pulse tribute. Everyone should buy a copy. Love is love.
Yeah, in June of 2016, there was the Pulse nightclub massacre where 49 people killed by a madman. And I woke up, the night that happened, I remember seeing a story in the news that said, there's been a shooting at a nightclub. And I'm like, oh, there's been a shooting at a nightclub in America. It must be a day in America. And then I woke up the next morning and heard that there were that many people dead. And because it was a gay bar, it really hit me. And then I found out the demographics of the gay bar. It was so many young LGBT people of color. Gay bars historically had been a place of safety, a place of a secret clubhouse, if you were. And to have someone go in there and see people living their truths and be so repressed and damaged and broken that he can't fathom that he could ever be that happy, he has to destroy that happiness, is to me one of the most horrifyingly tragic things in the world. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that guy is dead. What he did was awful, but we also need to try and empathize and see how people get to that place. And empathy is not sympathy. Empathy allows us to understand. And, so I woke up and I was a kid of the We Are the World generation. Hands Across America and all that. So I just typed in, and that was also Gay Pride weekend in LA. I just typed in Facebook, let's do a fundraising comic book, I'll organize it. And then Paul Dini and his wife, Misty, called me and said, we're taking you out. So we went down to watch the Gay Pride Festival and just be seen, because being seen in the shadow of such a horrible thing was really important. And cut to 6 months later, the book has, over 500 contributors. It's a bunch of 1- and 2-page stories dealing with, it's a book called Love is Love. Patty Jenkins wrote the introduction for it. It was co-produced by DC Comics and IDW. Archie let us use their characters. Will Eisner's Estate let us use the Spirit. DC let us use all their characters. Marvel let their exclusive creators out of contract just for that. And Matt Bomer, J.K. Rowling, Patton Oswalt, Taran Killam. It's just crazy, the amount of people. A bunch of new creators. I tried to reach out and find some trans creators and that sort of thing. And I purposely didn't make it just LGBT creators, because I felt like everybody has a brother or a sister or a mother or a father or an aunt or an uncle. And yes, it was gay people that were targeted, but it was a human tragedy. It was 49 people who were taken in one of the most horrific ways possible. And I wanted everybody to feel. Now, there is a place for a book that is strictly the LGBT point of view for that. But I wanted something that was going to make people feel. I wanted to reach the widest audience possible, and I wanted it to be a book, because like with We Are the World, when you hear that song or you hear Do They Know It's Christmas, it brings you back to that place. And you can write a check and send a check to the Red Cross, but the moment you put the check in the mail, boom, you've compartmentalized it and you close that part off. I still can't read Love is Love in one sitting without breaking down because of the level of emotion. And that's the way it should be. The moment we are not bothered by stuff like that, the moment stuff like that doesn't hurt and make us wonder where did we go wrong in society, is the moment we become like some of the people we have in government right now. We become monsters. So, and luckily we've raised over about $400,000 worldwide. There's 8 different foreign editions. It debuted at number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Seth Meyers graciously had me on to promote the book. We're in our 11th or 12th printing right now, and the 5th anniversary is coming up next year. So I'm thinking of a 5th anniversary, trying to see if there's a 5th anniversary thing we can do to include Black Lives Matter and the trans audience, because there, it's really easy. The powers that be, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, the powers that be like minorities all fighting amongst themselves because we outnumber them. and that's what's been so gratifying about the George Floyd marches. In Hollywood, 2 blocks from my house, there were probably 500,000 people marched that week. And it was gay, straight, black, white, Latino, physically challenged, all ages, all arm in arm, peacefully marching. The streets were clean afterwards. We are all in this together, and that's something that this COVID is doing. We're all in this together, and it takes far less energy to be pleasant and to be supportive of other people's happiness than it does to be an asshole. And it's attributed to Confucius on the internet, so he probably had never said this, but hating someone is like taking poison and expecting them to die. I'm going to get mad about things that matter. I'm going to get mad about things that really upset me. I'm not going to get mad about a girl character in Star Wars. That is the height of privilege. If you can legitimately ruins your day, you have no idea how easy your life is. So anyway.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Yes, John Kaiser's right. The man should be invited for sainthood. That's true.
Aww.
And also, we did have a super chat earlier from Jake Ackerman. It's so great to finally have the Android on show. Yes, Jake.
Hey, Jake, how you doing, man?
Jake, another one of us. But I love what you say about that. That's so true. And I think that deep down, we know that we are all coming together. And it's slow and it's not as visible as it could be, but it's there.
Let's use the metaphor of a car crash. Right now, this country is a high-speed. We are driving the wrong way on the freeway at 85 miles an hour, and we hit another car head on. That happens in seconds. It's going to take years, if not decades. What was the best of America before this happened, before COVID and Trump happened? I'm going to be long dead before we get back to that place of awesome. And that place wasn't that awesome. There has been such a decimation of our society that Trump has done more damage in his administration than just the COVID deaths alone are 160,000 now.
Yeah.
So that's 55 9/11s. That's how many Benghazis? I said I wasn't going to get political, and I will shut up in a minute. I just don't understand how, I don't understand why, because it's always about like right now he wants to destroy Social Security. Getting rid of the payroll tax eliminates Social Security. And we're going to see how that's something the Republicans are good at, branding. They're good at like global warming. If it's warming, why is it cold? Death panels, there's a gay sex columnist named Dan Savage who does this column called Savage Love, and he's a guest on Bill Maher all the time. And about 2 years back, before Bill Maher went completely wherever he went, on the Dennis Miller train to weirdness, he said, he was talking to Dan, and he said, well, gay marriage got passed. And Dan Savage said, no, gay marriage didn't get passed. Marriage equality got passed. He said, if we had been out there still calling it gay marriage, no one, it's all about branding. And that's what we need to get branding about. That's why it's good seeing like the Lincoln Project. I don't care if they're in this for ulterior motives. Those Lincoln Project commercials, I am a salty bitch. Those commercials made me go, whoo, damn. I'm like, can we finally grow up here? The Democrats need to stop bringing a spork to a knife fight because the Republicans have AIDS needles and a flamethrower.
Wow. You're not wrong. So, branding is an important thing. I'm sure Kelsey agrees too, yes. Regardless of your political bent, and I don't know how you are a follower of something like the Schmoedown if you are right-wing and ultra-conservative. And if you are right-wing and conservative, I don't hate you. Other types of people are fine. Come outside. Knowledge is not something to be afraid of. Knowledge is great. When you learn something new, your reaction should be, oh, I didn't know that. Now I do. Right. Don't be afraid of it. There is nothing to be afraid of. I do think there are so many people that starting with Reagan, we ruined the education system. Reagan was one of the first presidents that said higher education is a privilege, not a right. I want everybody healthier and smarter than I am, because then I can do less. Because I'm not getting smarter as I get older. The water level in the pool is dropping. I plateaued in like 93, like April, and And I understand why so many white people are so scared and so afraid of things, because they've been told they're the number one. They've been told they're special, and then the real world says, "Who the fuck are you?"
So I get where their anger is coming from, but the anger being directed at others is the wrong thing. It's not the minorities. It's these companies that are too big. Look at all these corporations. Like I think it was United. They're like, United Airlines might go out of business because of the coronavirus. To which I say to them, well, then if your business is that fragile, it should go out of business. That's Darwinism. Why are we paying for these shitty companies? Let them fix their ways. It might make our lives a little bit tougher. And I don't want anyone to lose their jobs. I'm not saying that glibly, but I'm talking about these. We've been sacrificing all of us to the teat of the stockholders, so stockholders can still get their money.
Right.
Stockholders have become lampreys, sucking the organs out of these organizations where they should be a symbiotic relationship. You go public so the investors, so you can create and you can be better. This constant chasing of we need 100% profit every quarter is not sustainable. And how much money does anybody need? Billionaires should be illegal. No one needs $1 billion. If you can't live on $150 million, you don't deserve to have a dollar.
It's a very good point. And I agree. I also want to add on this.
And I am running for office. No, I'm kidding.
I'd vote for you. I'd definitely vote for you at this point.
I don't have anything to hide, so I don't have any really interesting scandals either. So
I don't think Idris Elba would count on the scandal scale probably in politics. Yeah. But no, you're right. Though. I think that it's a thing about we shouldn't be afraid to have everybody be smarter than you, because if everybody's smart, that means the place can only get better. If smarter people are, the better we're all going to be.
A rising tide raises all ships. And to appeal to the Americans who ride their hover rounds, and their blood type is Mountain Dew Extreme, everybody being smarter and healthier than you means you have to do even less work. If everybody who was angry about the libs actually did positive things, we would have flying cars and time machines, and everything would be great. We spend so much time being angry, and it's so counterproductive. I don't try to be a nice person because I want to be a nice person. Anger is exhausting.
It really
is. When I was a kid, there was this old 70s bumper sticker. It takes 12 muscles to smile and 300 to frown. And just do it. Just smile physically, and you sit up. Frown, and you feel it's not even an emotional thing, it's a physical thing. You feel your body clenching up. Why choose that? Why wake up and say, what am I going to be pissed off about all day today? Once again, it's privilege. It's privilege to be able to wake up and say, I'm going to be mad because that person used a semicolon and that is against women's rights. Come on. Yes, there are injustices of all levels, but let's focus on things that we can actually change and are actually affecting people. And that wasn't a slam on women's rights. That was just an arbitrary thing because believe me, the only thing we hate in this country more than black people seems to be women. So, it's just exhausting. But I just don't understand expending unnecessary energy on things that don't matter.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You're putting your energy into something that is important for your overall health and for your mental health, and then just thinking about negative stuff all day just is not a good thing at all.
And I have to remind myself of that as well. I don't say this like I'm some guru. The things I say to myself every day because I need to remind myself, stop staring at your navel. Don't get upset about things that don't matter. Get up, get dressed, go outside. Don't stay inside all day and stew. Get out and interact with people. These are things that I have to do. Any good personal trainer makes you work out the exact same way they do. So I hear.
I wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know.
Not doing a whole lot, unfortunately. But well, speaking of positive, trying to get back into positivity, let's get back to where you were. You were a child in comics. Now you're a writer. How did that happen? How did you get into writing? Where did you decide that?
This story is going to annoy people that struggle and fought to be a comic book writer in blood, sweat, and tears. So I was in college in Kent State University in Kent, Ohio, and I was working at a newsstand, and this guy came in and was buying a copy of an animation magazine. It was all about Beauty and the Beast because that had just came out. And I was talking to him at the counter, like, "Oh, this is such a great movie," and then he paid with his credit card, and I saw that his name was Philip Craig Russell, and I'm like, "Are you P. Craig Russell, the comic book artist?" Because I knew he lived in town. He's like, "Yeah," and I had been a fan of his since I was 7 or 8 years old, and we became friends. and like he did the poster art for a couple of plays I directed when I was at university. And Craig's one of his first big projects at Marvel was a Doctor Strange annual, Doctor Strange Annual 1 from 1974. And Craig was supposed to write it. He like wrote and drew like the first 25 pages, I think. And then they just for on spec, and they brought in another writer to finish it. And Craig had always talked about how it wasn't his story. I'm like, well, why don't you just call Marvel? This was in the mid '90s, and I said, why don't you're a bigwig, call Marvel, tell them you want to do a director's cut, just do the new ending, do those 10 pages. So that's a good idea. So I was in rehearsal, didn't see him for a couple of weeks, then I get a call. I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, yeah, Marvel said yes. I'm like, awesome. He's like, when can you start? It's like, what? He's like, well, I want you to write it with me. I'm like, wow, what? He said, yeah. I said, I told Marvel. And I said, Marvel said yes? He said, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's how I became a comic book writer.
And you never.
So yes, Rita Hayworth at the soda fountain, but the really sort of far less financially successful one.
Yeah. So had it ever crossed your mind to write comics before that?
No, I wanted to, I had wanted to be a comic book artist as a kid, but I lacked the discipline. I couldn't, I knew what I wanted to see, and the actual time of drawing it to see that, drove me crazy. And then I majored in theater in college, and when you're a freshman, everybody's majoring in acting. And then I started directing and just loved directing theater, and ended up directing and producing a lot of theater in Cleveland after I graduated. And just sort of fell into writing. I had ideas that I thought would be good, and I tried to give them to a couple of friends to write with me, sort of like, editing, whatever. And I realized that was going to ruin friendships, because it's just like, so I'm like, I'll just do it myself. And somehow people fell for the fact that I know what I'm doing. And 27 years later, I'm talking to you guys in the middle of a plague about a movie trivia show I do on YouTube. So welcome to Fellini world.
That's exactly what every parent of someone with a kid with a theater degree hopes for.
Hey, I have a theater degree. I gotta say, Mark, I went to school for theater as well. Those college theater communities can be so batshit crazy, but yet so.
Oh, some of my best friends I made in college. I was lucky because Kent State didn't have a conservatory level program, but because when I was there were 3 different acting teachers who all hated each other and all believed in different methods, and we had 4 different performance spaces. I directed 4 main stage shows as an undergrad. You don't get to do that at NYU or Juilliard. We got to make our own stuff. And, I can't believe I'm going to be quoting a Republican general or paraphrasing, but Norman Schwarzkopf famously said, and he was the general back in the days of the first Gulf War, before either of you were probably alive.
I'm old. I'm there with you.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, the first Gulf War took place in the last century, in the early 90s. But he said he didn't learn to be a 5-star general by serving under good leaders. He learned by serving under bad leaders, because he had to figure out how to do it himself. And there's a similar thing to what we did in college. We were just too stupid to not. At 19, I directed Oscar Wilde's Salome with a cast of 7 people fully nude and body painted doing the Dance of the Seven Veils, a disembodied head, original music, blood, spears. I am, speaking in verse. Because I was 19. You're supposed to fail spectacularly when you're 19. I want more kids in college to realize you're paying to fail spectacular, especially in the arts. Aim high in college, because that's the place to do whatever the fuck you want. Because in the real world, those chances aren't going to be there. You're paying for that institution to be open. They're not in charge of you. You are the customer, and the customer is always right. Do stuff. Force yourself to do stuff. The stuff I directed in college, I would never attempt to direct right now if it was my first time. Because, youth might be wasted on the young, but there's something to be said for youthful arrogance, because why not? Yeah. And especially in the safety net of college.
That's what it is.
If you're going to be in debt, make some good trouble. Make some good fucking trouble.
Absolutely. I have my oldest child is a trans man, but she was identifying as female when she first went to school, and her big thing that she wanted to do, she did this gender bending, modern version of Jesus Christ Superstar in the round. And I got to tell you, I was like, that's a mind trip and a half. And it was so well done, though. It was so much fun. I was like, this is what you should be doing when you're in college. Do this kind of shit and get it out there. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. I love that idea, man.
How long has your son been out as a trans man?
Recent. It's actually been very recent. The past 3 months now. About 3 months now, he's been going.
And he sat you down and told you?
He did. Well, it's kind of one of those things. Like he was, for the longest time, he was pan, and then he kind of went with. He was like maybe gay, but he bi for a while.
Kids these days, man, they're so fucking cool. If we just gave them the educational tools they needed, we could all just retire. Right? I would just be sitting in my Barca lounger, eating wings and watching the world go by. Right? Because these kids are so progressive as far as gun rights and gun control and human sexuality. And I grew up in Mentor, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. And my graduating class was like 989 people. There was one person of color who was an Indian. There were 2 Asians and a Jew. I mean, it sounds like a joke. Like, and they walked into high school. So and now my high school has a gay straight alliance, and they have copies of Love and Love in the alumni display. And I'm like, where is this world? Yeah. Kids are so cool. I mean, you even see straight guys who are like, yeah, I made out with my best friend. We just tried it. It was whatever. It was fine. I'm like, where am I? I feel like a Cro-Magnon man given an iPhone. I'm like, wait, what the fuck is this? And it's great. It gives me hope because whatever the generation under the millennials, the ones who are just starting to turn 18 and vote, God damn, they inspire me. They remind me of the ACT UP people, the AIDS protesters in the 80s. They look like what it must have felt like to be the people in Selma and all the protest marchers, and they're right to be angry because we're leaving them with a shit sandwich. I want their righteous anger. I want bring on the 18 and 19-year-old overlords right now because they have more empathy and more concern for outside of their own 5-foot radius than their grandparents do. So.
You're right. You're right in that every generation seems to be getting more and more open. So it's excited to move on to see what's going to happen to the next generation.
Can you imagine being 18 right now?
No.
Being 18 sucks no matter how cool your life is. We go through that emotional puberty until you're 30, and then you realize, oh shit, I'm responsible for my own decisions. They don't ever talk about that. But being 18 right now, I don't know how people do it. I don't know the level of PTSD that we're going to experience. If I had a kid in college, I'd say study psychiatry because you're going to be working for the rest of your life.
110%, my ass.
Or study lighting and sound design for film and TV because all the below the line people they're not going to be below the line when this is over because once we're allowed to start filming again, they're going to be able to name their price as they should.
Yeah.
So kids out there, psychology. Animal psychology, because every dog in the world is going to have crazy. That's going to be what makes it the Planet of the Apes. When we all go back to work, the dogs are going to evolve, and they're going to be our overlords. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm good with that. If somebody can feed me and pick up my shit, I'm golden. But study below the line lighting and sound on films and TV. Animal psychology or psychiatry, and you will be working for the rest of your life. And as Americans with the coronavirus, mortuary sciences are probably a good thing too.
Oh, you're not wrong. Wow. So you mentioned like directing. You love directing. That's anything else? Has directing movies ever been something that you wanted to get into, or could you possibly still do something small?
Yes and no. It's an entirely different beast.
It is.
And the amount of competition for it. I mean, I would love to, given the alignment of things, but the stuff that I write is not the stuff I like to direct. I write big budget stuff. I would much rather, if I was going to direct, I'd much rather direct The Big Chill than Jurassic World. Because first of all, it is sort of obscene that we spend $300 million making movies, and there are children, hundreds of thousands of children that go to bed hungry or go to their car to bed hungry every night. Don't get me wrong. I like a big budget spectacle. But some of this stuff, the moral rot of it, kind of, yeah. Especially since these corporations don't pay taxes. If they all paid taxes, then I'd be fine with it. But they don't. They do. None of these corporations contribute anything back to society. But yeah, I think directing would be fun. Once again, it would be a smaller character-based thing, because on those big budget movies, you might be the director, but unless you're of a handful of people, it's not you. It's all the stuff around you, and it's the marketing department, and it's the licensors, and it's the lead actor has an acting coach who has input on the it's so much stuff that I love working with actors. I love rehearsing. I love research. That's the best part of any project. So it's why I like theater more, and I would love to do some more theater if I could get the chance, if we're ever allowed to be in groups of more than 4 in an enclosed space ever again.
Oh, what's your dream project then? Are you going to direct a theater, like next theater project? You can come back.
There's a bunch. There's a bunch. It's all over the place. Like I would love to do a revival of Ira Levin's Death Trap, which was famously made into a movie with Christopher Reeve, Michael Caine, and Diane Cannon. I would love to direct the musical Camelot because I love King Arthur, and I think that musical is deeply flawed, but I think I know how to fix it and make some edits. It just varies. Generally, I like the stuff I'd be interested in directing is stuff that I've never seen produced before. It's reading a play or hearing about a play and then getting my own sort of conception before I see it, because no matter how much you think you can shut that stuff out, you're going to be influenced by the directors that have come before you. So,
absolutely. I mean, I directed a few shows myself, and I always have a hard time trying to make that jump to something else. But I get so.
And by the way, when you're directing something, it should scare you. I'm a big believer that if I read a play and I know what every single scene looks like in my head, I have no interest in directing it. If I know how the 2 or 3 big scenes kind of look and the rest sort of makes my teeth hurt a little, that's what I want to do. Because I think as an artist, and this is going to sound pretentious, you have to have a little bit of fear in your belly. Too much fear can be just as arrogant as saying, I have writer's block or my words are perfect. But the moment you're not a little bit nervous is the moment you're probably not very good anymore.
Oh, I like that. Well, let me talk about creation still. Actually, a question I definitely had for you. You created some characters now in the comic book world that have lasted. Mm-hmm. Who is your favorite character that you've created?
Well, Kate Spencer, Manhunter. Yeah, I mean the road to how that book came about, and then the reaction by the fans is just it's like Candyland. It's you're just like it's just crazy. Because I had written 3 issues of a Thunder Agents revival for DC, and 2 of them were fully done. And the guy that owned the trademark at the time was just a lunatic. And DC had said, this guy's so much work that unless this book is going to sell, Batman levels, it's really, literally, financially not worth it to make our legal department deal with this guy.
Right.
That one, I was like, okay, great, fine. And then Dan DiDio called me and said, hey, how about Manhunter? I'm like, which one? You have like 30 of them. He's like, I want a new one, and she's a female. You want to do it? And I'm like, no. And then I thought about it, and I had just been doing a big rewatch of Katharine Hepburn's movies because I believe it was right around when she passed.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of Helen Mirren's Prime Suspect, which if you haven't watched Prime Suspect with Helen Mirren, do yourself a favor, and this is the perfect time to watch it. It's 7 different miniseries. She won a couple of Emmys for it. And she plays this character, Jane Tennyson, who's this homicide detective in England. And she's chain smokes, and she's divorced, and she had an abortion, and she's abrasive, and she hates herself, and she's everything Wolverine is, but she's magical because she has breasts. And I was like, the whole Madonna whore thing in our society, women can either be sexualized villains or they can be pure. And I don't write characters who are female characters or gay characters or whatever. I write characters who happen to be things. Because I'm a gay guy, but being gay is a huge part of who I am, but also an utterly insignificant part of who I am. And I, as a reader and as an audience member, never like being talked to or talked at. I don't like didactic stuff. If I was a dog, I would never get a pill wrapped in the lunch meat. I would know the pill is in there and spit it out. So I don't like to do that. And I like to present things and let the themes and stuff like that come out that way. So I was like, okay, well, what if I do a female Manhunter? And what if she is an abrasive, bad mom? She's a divorcee. I said, what if it takes place in Los Angeles, since the DC universe is all fake cities? What if it's a real city? And what if she's a federal prosecutor, like the original one? And what if she's a prosecutor who prosecutes supervillain crime as a metaphor for the celebrity crime out here? You know? So in the first issue, she's smoking and she's sort of a bitch, and in the best sort of way. She's a broad. You know, she's one of those. She would have been a box office draw in the 40s, like when it was Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, because all those women back then were tough and could hold their own, but they weren't desexualized. They weren't masculine, and I wanted to do that. So in her first case, she's prosecuting Copperhead, who's the snake guy, and he robbed a bank and ate 12 people, and he gets found not guilty for reasons of genetic anomaly, which would be a legitimate defense.
Right.
I was born that way. And he gets out, and the first thing he does is he starts eating people again. So she goes into an evidence locker, and she builds herself a costume out of confiscated supervillain tech. And she kills bad guys, but she's not the Punisher. She wouldn't kill the Riddler, because the Riddler's just an annoying bank robber. But she's like, why the fuck is the Joker still alive? He's never going to get mainstreamed and be cleaning trays at Taco Bell. He's murdered 1.5 million people at least by now. Keeping him alive is tempting fate. You know, and I don't necessarily believe everything she does as well. So to have a character, because I'm really conflicted about the death penalty. I think in a vacuum, there are definitely people that don't deserve the privilege of being alive and don't contribute anything to society. And it costs like $80,000 a year to keep someone in prison. I don't know about you guys, but I haven't made $80,000 a year every day of my life, every year of my life. And 3 squares, healthcare, library, gym. I mean, I'm being a little glib there, but I like. There's got to be something when I'm creating something. There's got to be something in it that if I wasn't creating it, I would pay to read. I can't ask anybody out there to spend $4 on a comic book or $20 on a graphic novel or $15 on a movie or watch a TV show that I'm involved with if I wouldn't do the same. And that sort of circles back, ironically, to being a writer. I'm a writer out of necessity. I want to see these stories. So I do it so they can happen, not because I think I have anything to offer the world. I've just got that director's commentary in my head, and I need to get it out on paper.
Okay. I believe that you do have something to offer to the world, sir. You have a very good perspective and a different perspective that should be heard and seen as just a normal voice in society. So I definitely appreciate every single thing that you do and everything that you've said so far in this interview. It really shows how in touch you are with what's going on in the world, and
it only took 50 years.
Only 50. So yeah, this is great.
There you go.
Super
chat, Mike Deacon, hashtag Andreyko 2020, hashtag Yakavetta 2020, hashtag Denuzio 2020. That's quite a group there. Thank you, Mike, for that. But I think it's almost.
One last thing. Okay. I forgot about when we were talking about Love is Love. Love is Love is still available. All profits continue to go to LGBT charities. The first year, we donated almost $200,000 to the survivors and victims' families of the Pulse nightclub shooting. The second and third year, we've given tens of thousands of dollars to the Trevor Project, which is a great suicide prevention counseling hotline for LGBT youth. That is a fantastic organization. So you buy a copy of Love is Love, whether digitally or print, and every dime that doesn't go to cover the basic expenses goes directly to charity. Every single person donated their time, and we're going to keep it in print forever, and it's going to continue to do good. So just don't read it publicly because you will utterly cry. Yeah, Damon Lindelof and Lenil Yu did probably my favorite piece in the book, and it will just tear your heart out. It's really, really wonderful.
Well, Jake, you're in the chat. Jake is the king of links for us. We'll get some links, I'm sure, and we'll throw them in there for everybody to click on and get there as well. So there. One last question before we get into this. That speaking of Kate Spencer, she did have her appearance in the CW show on Arrow.
Ish.
So I'd ask you how you felt about
that. That's Earth 4. Right. That's Earth Canadian local hire.
Fair enough. I'll leave it at that then.
No, I mean, I loved it. Mark Guggenheim's a good friend, and it was great that he put her in there. But with everything else going on, and all the other moving parts in that, it wasn't like, he called me and said, "We're killing her." I'm like, okay. She appeared in one other episode and never in costume. So Kate Spencer, I'm sure there's probably a bunch of them on the planet. So
There you go. That's true. There you go. Has that ever been anything you wanted to see? Have you wanted to be involved?
Oh
more
yeah, absolutely. And there's interest in it too. There has been for a very long time. It's just it took Warner Brothers 20 years to get a Batman movie made. So there's no such thing as overnight in Hollywood. Any overnight success you hear about, they're selectively removing 10 years prior to that. So yeah, hopefully, I mean, I would love it. There's so many. I think it would be great for HBO Max. I think it's a streaming show. I don't think it's a movie. But there are so many different ways to go with the casting of it. And there are people that I would love to see play the part. And who knows? Who knows?
Is the
my mom knows who Groot is, so anything is possible.
Can be made, anything is possible this day.
If you had told me when I was 12 years old that Groot would be one of the most popular characters in fiction when I was an adult, I would say, okay, and I'm going to grow horns and turn into the Minotaur.
Very true. Very true. All right, we're going to get into this or that. We do have a couple of Streamlabs that have been piling up, so we'll get to them soon as we do after this or that. If you have not watched the show before, this is where I'm going to be giving Mark choices, option A, option B, and he can choose between them. You can either expound on it if you want. You can ask for clarification. If you have any you want to throw up in the chat too, I'll throw them up there as well. First one we ask is one we are always asked on the podcast, being an Action Army podcast. Mark, are you Team Ghai or are you Team Traitor?
There's only one right answer.
In what context?
Context you would like, sir.
What context? How about as in who would you root for in a match? You're not facing them. And it has nothing to do with points or standings or anything else. Ghai versus.
I appreciate them both for different reasons.
Well,
and if I can objectify at one of the first event we did at the El Portal, we were down in the green rooms getting ready, and it was the one where I was Jared Leto from Fight Club without the rape or the cult. That Tron movie is never getting made, by the way. Disney is never going to make a Tron movie with a rapist cult leader in a movie. That's never happening. Good luck. And second of all, no one wants to see another Tron movie. Tron is not good. The first movie is dreadful and boring. The second movie is the world's longest techno haze, ecstasy haze at the world's most boring gay bar.
Fair enough.
It's one sound cue for 3.5 days. Anyway, I was going to objectify because I was walking down by the changing rooms, and Drew came out without a shirt on. He was, getting changed, and I was like, oh, damn, I think I like the Action Army now. But I want to be like I would be like Diane Wiest in Bullets Over Broadway, like Drew, shh, don't speak. No, but Drew's great. Drew's a really wonderful guy and such a great actor. People don't realize how much of what he's doing is a performance. It took me a year to realize it. And underneath it all, he's one of the sweetest, nicest guys I've ever met. And Ben's a softie too. I mean, Ben and I will always be like nemesis in the match just because it's fun. But it's the fun kind of rivalry. It's not like I wish him ill. I want to continue to beat him in singles, but it's fun. So they're both good guys. So I'm gonna go right down the middle on that one.
Okay, fair enough. Let's just let it that way. So. All right, here we go. Playing in singles or playing in teams?
Depends on my mood. Right now, I'm diving back into singles. Inspired by Ben at the awards. He was just running off his mouth. I'm like, ugh, all right, fine. I'm back. But teams is super fun because it's getting to figure out how you jibe with the other person. Hopefully it's someone with strengths that aren't your strengths and weaknesses that aren't your weaknesses. I hope to have many different partners in my Schmoedown career just because it's so much fun. And I think also all of us are looking for a change, not because we don't like where we're at, but just because we're all so stir crazy. We're also, we're on the last page of All Work and No Play Makes Jack a Dull Boy. And just to shake things up. I mean, how great would it be if Snyder and Rocco were a team?
Wow.
Or me and Ben.
I would love
How much fun would that be?
Great fun.
Remember how much fun it was when Bibiani and Nost were a team for like 2 times? It was the absolute best. And I think it would be fun. I would love to do a season of veterans and newbies where we're paired with someone new, like if I was paired with, Chandru.
Right.
Or someone like that. Or someone other new. There's so many people. There's so many new players. And I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. I've never met them. Like, that's great. But I think we could do stuff like that just to shake things up. And I think, Christian's all in for doing interesting stuff and keeping it going. And, and these Zoom matches, I think, are working better than anybody expected. They still aren't. There's still a Hydrox cookie when I really want an Oreo cookie.
Right.
But that's better than it being a rock when I want a cookie, And I think the more we do, the better they'll get. And I just got to give a big shout out to, we all love Christian, and this is Christian's baby, but this would not exist without Marc Ellis. Marc Ellis is an absolutely exemplary human being. He could show up at my house with a body in his trunk, and I would say, let me help you bury it and tell me after we're done why they deserved it. Marc is just, I can't say enough about him. He's somebody that I want to be better friends with because he's just a delightful guy. And when I hear the word stand-up comedian, I go, oh, he's good. Forgot when I've seen him perform, I forget that I know him. That's the biggest compliment I can give to somebody. If I know you and I'm watching you work and I forget that we're friends, he's just the best guy on the planet. And I can't say that enough in enough different places how wonderful he is.
I 100% agree. Like we've met him a few times ourselves, and I tell you, even meeting him for the brief amount of times we've met him, you just know that he's listening to you. He's genuine. He's really there for you. Like,
when you're talking to him, he is listening to you. Yep. That's the thing. There's no fake. There's no Hollywood bullshit. If you're talking to him, he is fully present.
That's great. And he remembers. He'll remember, like, a couple months later, you'll see it. Like, oh, yeah, I remember. How's that going? It's refreshing. It's refreshing in this kind of day where there's a lot of bullshit out there.
Well, most people are pretty decent.
You're right.
Unfortunately, the assholes and the evil ones are the squeaky wheels. Like the Million Moms March. Those are 3 women that live in 2 double wides in, Kentucky. There's not a million of them. Once again, branding on the right. It's most people just want to live their lives and be left alone to live their lives happily, and they want everyone else to be happy. It's that simple. And we need to lean into that more. If what you're doing is not hurting me or hurting anyone else, go at it.
110%. Just Kaiser just say you lost him. He wants Andreyko and Smets.
When I did Gucci Verse or Gucci World or whatever that lunacy is called on Friday, I said I would love to, if Kevin ever was going to play in the regular leagues, I would partner with Kevin in a second and a half, because Kevin is also another one of these exemplary human beings. He is just such a good dude, and you look at him, and I always joke that he should be Johnny Bravo for Halloween because he looks like, doesn't he? If he just had that big bouffant and a black t-shirt and sunglasses, it's easy. But he's just a really good guy, and and I couldn't be happier for him. He's married now, and he's expecting a baby. And even though he lost, you know what? That rivalry is good for the fans. It's good for us. We need to lose. We all need to lose every now and then, because, as I've said ad nauseum, success is a lying, phony, evil witch. Failure is where it's at. Failure makes you who you are. Success is, it's why when you see someone why Justin Bieber goes crazy. If I was 19 years old and homeschooled and suddenly had $300 billion, I was an asshole when I was 19 and I didn't have $300 million. I wasn't the ATM for 300 people.
Right. Oh, man.
So, it's why, Failures are good for you. They're not fun when you're having them, but I would not trade any of my failures because they shape who you are. You have to learn from them. If you don't, you're eventually going to die, I guess. You're eventually, the Darwinism will come in. But yeah, we need to not be ashamed of failures. There's nothing wrong with saying I'm sorry or I was wrong. There's nothing. In fact, people are so afraid of doing that. They say it's a mistake or I was wrong. They don't know how to react. Everybody expects you're going to give them that fake apology. I'm sorry you didn't understand me. If someone says that to me, I'm going to punch them in the throat because that's sometimes as an adult, you apologize even when you're right.
Yeah.
Fancy that.
That's why I'm still married. Luckily, my wife's asleep, though, so she won't hear this. That's okay. All right, got another one now. Let's say DC came to you and they gave the choice to write Superman or write Batman.
Oh, Superman. Absolutely.
Superman.
For a monthly comic book, absolutely. I think Superman is far easier to write than.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Batman, and I have Batman stories I want to tell, but writing that as a monthly book would be really, really, really hard. If I had an idea, I would do it. But as it stands, if I was offered right now, you can have monthly Superman or monthly Batman, I would take Superman just because I think Superman's more. There's so much more interesting stuff to be done there. I think what Bendis is doing with Superman right now is really fun, and I got to do a little peripheral stuff with Supergirl at the time. And I'm a Clevelander. Superman was created in Cleveland, so there's sort of that sort of like symmetry, and I just think that I think Superman is a character who is incredibly difficult to make interesting, but incredibly simple to make interesting in the same breath, if that makes any sense. So
I've heard, like a lot of times I hear writers, they say that they have a hard time that Superman is just he's so powerful and everything else. It's a hard time making something sense out of that. I'm making that work consistently. But I'm so interested to hearing you say that. That's cool.
Ironically, he is an alien, but he is the most human being on the planet. He is someone who puts everyone else before himself and expects nothing in return. And that's hard to write because most of us don't even understand what that begins to be like. And he doesn't do it because he's a martyr. He doesn't do it for the accolades. He does it because it's the right thing to do. And I think a lot more of us could, going back to Love is Love, after doing that book and having parents of people who were killed in the club or survivors thank me for the book, which is something I can't even comprehend. I did it as a sort of to heal myself, and to have it actually affect people who experience those losses is such a privilege. And since then, I've tried to learn something new every day, and I try to be nice to at least one stranger every day. That can be simply holding a door. That can be letting someone in traffic. That can be saying to the old lady behind you, "Oh, I like your blouse." And you know what? When you do that, not only does it make you feel good, but that can change the trajectory of someone's day. Someone might be wanting to go home and put their head in the oven, and you saying to them, "Oh, I like it. Where did you get your hair done? That's a really great color." That could stop them. We do not know the impact of our words or our actions, positively or negatively, and I do now from doing Love is Love, and I try to every day be nice to a stranger, and it gets big. Sometimes it's big. Sometimes there's a homeless family on the street, and I'll buy groceries and give them groceries. Sometimes it's simply letting someone make the left-hand turn in front of me. But literally, the old Aesop's fable, the crow putting the pebbles in the urn to make the water rise. Everything starts with a little piece, and you don't have to do it every day. Try and do one nice thing a week to a stranger. You'll be amazed how much better you'll sleep and how much lighter you'll feel, just spiritually.
And that's what, and doing it once a week will lead to doing it more too, because
and if I can do it, anybody can, because I'm C plus on a good day. Trust me. If I can do it, It ain't that hard, folks.
Give gratitude to yourself. Well, on this, give gratitude to yourself also every night before you go to sleep. Make sure that you thank yourself and write some things down that you're grateful for. So I love this conversation.
Oh, that's not what I thought you meant by giving gratitude to oneself.
Well, that helps you go to sleep sometimes too, but
absolutely go for it. It helps you go to sleep at night. Give gratitude to yourself in whichever way that you would feel best.
Whatever. Speaking of that, actually, my next list for that was Henry Cavill as Superman or Henry Cavill as The Witcher.
Henry Cavill as Clark Kent in the bathtub with Lois in Batman vs. Superman.
All right.
I have never wanted to be reincarnated as a pair of black denim jeans more than that moment.
Fair enough.
Out on my gratitude journal tonight.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for Henry.
Good call. Okay.
So much I have to switch hands. Gratitude.
I was going to throw in the August Walker there too, but there you got it now. I'll take that, and that's definitely a good final answer. All right, we said it before: clearing the table or winning the team belt.
Probably winning the team belt, just because clearing the table happened so early that I knew it was a fun moment, but I didn't know that it would be one of those. Do you remember the old Wide World of Sports on ABC and the opening credits were like 3 or 4 of the thrill of victory and the agony? I didn't know that moment would be in that reel. I didn't know that was a moment that was going to be part of the Schmoedown. Welcome to Schmoedown. Here's the pack. So if I could go back with the knowledge I have now, I would probably appreciate that more, because it was also those 4 people that I beat was just like the only good thing the movie The Spirit ever did was help me get rid of those 4 people. Because I love the Will Eisner Spirit stuff, and that movie took me 4 days to watch. That movie is one of the worst things. If I had 6 months to live, I would watch that every day, and it would feel like I lived to be 109. Sam Jackson literally throws the kitchen sink at the Spirit in that movie. A literal kitchen sink.
Not a lot of subtlety there.
Next movie I'm gonna have to try. It sounds like.
I don't know if you need to. I really don't know if you need to. I mean, to try watching. She's never seen the movie, so. No. This is not a movie that's so good, so bad it's good. This is a movie that's so bad it's depressing and then infuriating, because one, there's some good things in it. Gabriel Macht is perfect casting. Dan Lauria is perfect casting. Even Eva Mendes is great, but everything else is so ill-conceived, and it's not Will Eisner's The Spirit. It is Frank Miller's The Spirit. His name is in big letters, and The Spirit's little tiny. And don't get me wrong, Frank is obviously a huge influence and a huge titan in comics and film. Everybody has an off day. Spielberg made the BFG. So. True. Very true. All right. I got about 2 more, I'll say. I know, speaking of The Spirit and movies you love, La La Land or Saving Private Ryan?
Saving Private Ryan. Because Saving Private Ryan is mostly a good movie. There's just 2 moments that turn it into garbage. And La La Land is just, I've said this before, La La Land should be called North Hollywood Dicks. Emma Stone's character, it shows you how lovable and how much we like Emma Stone that you don't realize that she is a psychotic hypocrite in that movie. He's out with John Legend's band, actually making jazz. Maybe not jazz that you like, but actually taking existing popular music and improvising. And it's popular. And he's a sellout, and then she comes back and does shitty rom-coms with Tom Everett Scott, and she's allowed to do that? Fuck you, lady. And she's also like, I've been here for 3 years and I'm not famous yet. I'm like, I've been here for 23 and I can't get arrested. It takes time. And then when she said, I'm doing a one-woman show about my teen years in Albuquerque, I went to theater school. I know what that one-woman show is. It's not good.
It is good and bad.
And Ryan Gosling looks like a serial killer in that movie. I keep waiting for him to just murder her.
Ryan Gosling.
And one last thing. It forgets it's a musical for 45 minutes.
It decides it is again. That's true.
My favorite thing about the Oscars that year was I was at an Oscar party, and they announced The winner is La La Land. And I looked at my phone, and it was 9/11. And I said, huh. And I tweeted, La La Land wins Best Picture at 9/11. Some moments are perfect. And then the rest of it happened. Oh, so good.
I was in a bar in Denver. I traveled for work, so I was in a hotel bar in Denver watching that whole moment go down. And I remember like putting my head down and hearing that La La Land won. And then as soon as like I heard it like on the TV screen about me, like raised up and started basically. I was fairly drunk at this point, but like screaming.
Oh, and just for the people that are going to come at me because of my talking about Saving Private Ryan, back in the day, there was a magazine called Premiere Magazine back in the days before the internet where you would read articles about movies and they do an issue of like what's coming out in the next year. And it was fantastic. In fact, I have every issue of it in boxes in my closet because I'm that weirdo. But the screenwriter William Goldman, who wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting and Misery and The Princess Bride, was writing a column. He also wrote a book called Adventures in the Screen Trade that I thoroughly recommend to anyone who's interested in Hollywood writing at all. And he talked about Saving Private Ryan. And I'm going to tell you what he said because that's exactly what's wrong with the movie, but he said it first and better. At the beginning of the movie, the old man looks up and becomes Tom Hanks. Then that means the old man is Tom Hanks. You are visually saying that old man is Tom Hanks. Because by making that man Matt Damon at the end of the movie, he wasn't privy to 2/3 of what we just sat through. That's a lazy cheat, and Spielberg knows better. And the other thing that is infuriating about that movie is we're all in the army in World War II. We're told there's a guy, he's the last of his 5 brothers who's left alive. We get him and bring him back. We get to go home. We don't have to fight anymore. So we go find him. And he says, no, I want to stay and fight. And we say, okay, let's stay and fight. No, I'm going to knock your ass out and tie you to a stick and drag you fucking back to base. All that needed to happen is the Nazis just cut them off. Yeah. That whole thing, I'm going to because that suddenly makes Ryan an asshole. Your parents lost every one of your siblings. This isn't about you. This is about them now. And it makes Matt Damon's character such a douchebag. And so much of that movie is brilliant.
Right.
I mean, that opening sequence is if you ever have a teenager who wants to enlist in the service, sit them down and we'll show them the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. They'll join the forestry service or the Coast Guard instead. But those 2 moments just drive me crazy. They take me out of the movie. And I'm not saying that to be crotchety or be funny. Those are moments that drove me crazy. Even seeing that movie in the theater, I was like, oh, come on. So.
Oh, no, I'm happy to hear this. I like the movie, but I never thought about it that way. But you're absolutely right. You mentioned it. I probably can't see it. But,
and let me say this. Everybody's mileage varies for everyone. What everyone's level of suspending disbelief is different. It's like snowflakes and fingerprints. They're all individual. There are things that bother other people in some movies that don't bother me, and I get why it bothers them. There are things in movies that are super successful that drive me crazy that I can't believe. The movie that drove me crazy the most recently was Baby Driver.
Okay, all right.
Oh my! I love Edgar Wright's movies, with the exception of Scott Pilgrim, just because that's not that video game world. Generationally, I have no reference point for that. I don't think it's a bad movie. I just don't connect with it on any level whatsoever. But Baby Driver, first of all, can we stop with Ansel Elgort?
Well, yeah.
Was a jar of mayonnaise not available? But Baby Driver, for me, if it had been as stylized as it was up to the point with the the laundromat and stuff, it was like almost Dick Tracy colors, great. Yeah. But for me, what took me out of Baby Driver was we're supposed to believe that Ansel Elgort, when he was 5 years old, a little white boy whose parents were killed in a car crash, he gets adopted by a black bachelor in a wheelchair in Atlanta. I would believe that Baby Driver could actually turn into a baby that is a car than that.
That's a Transformers sequel.
And once again, that's just something for me. I was like, wait a minute. He got adopted by a single black man a deaf single black man in a wheelchair. He's a white boy in Atlanta, in America. That aliens could land in this movie and I wouldn't bat an eyelash. That means no.
All right, well, let me turn this into movies I know you like. About Starship Troopers or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
Oh, well, cotton candy or sushi. I mean, they're really not comparable in any way, shape, or form, other than they're both movies.
That's true.
You know, I mean, I love Starship Troopers. In fact, I just watched it last night. It's an amazing movie, but you know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is poetry.
Yeah.
I mean, Ang Lee directed a movie that is subtitled that Americans saw, and so was the highest grossing non-English film of all time for a long time. The Passion of the Christ beat it because of Aramaic, but actual languages that are still in existence. And it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. And it's so specific to Japanese culture or our Chinese culture. It's so specific that the more specific the story, the more universal it feels. And Michelle Yeoh and Chow Yun-fat. I mean, come on. The score. Come on. If I had to, I think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a better movie. I would probably pick Starship Troopers because I could watch that on more of a loop, because that's a movie that you can have on in the background and come into, you know, gay psychic Nazi Neil Patrick Harris or a giant ass bug or something. Whereas Crouching Tiger is like reading a good novel. You're fully in it.
Perfect answer. Perfect answer. I like that. Yeah, I like both of them too. They're both very phenomenal movies in my rotation.
Ang Lee and the Coen brothers are the closest thing we have today to Billy Wilder, where every single movie they direct is an entirely different genre, and almost without fail, they don't do awful work. Even the bad ones are interesting. Now, I will say Ang Lee's last two movies defy that. Gemini Man's pretty unwatchable, and Billy Finn's Long Hollywood Halftime Walk. I get technically why he wanted to experiment with those, but those are two movies that you don't need to watch. But before that, his biggest failure was a Civil War movie called Ride with the Devil. That's actually really fascinating. It's actually really good. And if you haven't seen Ang Lee's The Ice Storm, you're going to get mad when you see it, because that's the movie that American Beauty wishes it was.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It's good. Some directors do have that. They connect with you the right way. Like right now, so far, Villeneuve has connected with me the right way. I've loved everything Villeneuve has done. So I'm looking forward to Dune. I can't wait for Dune. I honestly didn't care about Blade Runner 2049 because I don't like the original Blade Runner. I think it's a movie that its aesthetic is super important, but it's not a very good noir. It's basically a 40s movie with great production design, for good and for bad. I get why people like it. It's not my thing. And then to have Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford in a 2-hour and 40-minute movie where they're both sleepy robots. It's beautiful, but I think it's a pretty inert film. Fair enough. I dug into it. I think I just got enveloped into the scene and the storyline.
I get why people like it. I just find that's like in the column of like Close Encounters for me. They're not bad, but they're not science fiction films. They're films that are science fiction themed. They're films first, and that's not a bad thing. They're just, you know.
I've never heard Close Encounters put in that sort of that in that way, and that makes a lot of sense, and I really like it.
Well, Close Encounters is definitely a very thoughtful film. I mean, even when it came out, it was a thoughtful blockbuster. It's not an action film. I mean, there's some moments that are exciting, but it's a pretty. I mean, you could look at it as it's a man's descent into mental illness.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's what it is.
And I think Mashed Potato Mountain. Come on.
Can't go wrong with Mashed Potato Mountain. All right, that's going to end This or That. You survived your little stint on This or That. Thank you very much.
Those weren't hard at all. Oh, I see Ben Rayner over here in the chat saying that I don't consider Hulk a failure. I absolutely do not consider Hulk a failure. I think give me Ang Lee's Hulk any day of the week over most superhero films because it's ambitious. Now, I understand why people don't like it. It's a dreary film. Once again, give me $3 million, I will fix it, and the film will be a huge success. Here's how you fix it. The opening scene, Bruce Banner and Betty Ross and their golden retriever are having a picnic in Golden Gate Park. They're making out. They're playing Frisbee. We see how much in love they are. then start the movie, because we never see them like each other, let alone love each other. They're always in such a place of that we never were like, why are these people together? Why don't they just break up? We don't know. You don't know why they're attracted to each other. And I love the David Mamet 2-man play of him and Nick Nolte just sitting in that. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, okay, now we're doing theater. Awesome. The movie should have won for best editing because he used comic book formatting in a way that wasn't biff bam pow, in a way that really, really worked, right, and a way that was really accessible. It's a deeply flawed movie, but I would rather see something that's an ambitious failure than an easy success. Once again, I know why people don't like that movie, but I really, really do like Ang Lee's Hulk. And we've also forgot Brokeback Mountain, which will go down in history as the most egregious loss of Best Picture ever.
Very good choice. Oh, wow. All right, well, guys, you start getting your super chats or your Streamlabs in. We are going to be doing the questions from the chat, and while we're doing that, we will plug the channel for this week. Danny, what we got going on Wednesday?
On Wednesday, I'm going to bring in Kelsey for this also, so let me bring her back. Everybody, welcome, beautiful Kelsey. Yes. So, and mostly because it's a cop-out because I don't exactly know for sure. I don't know what we have going on Wednesday because now it just popped into my head. I'm sorry, we all just got the schedule figured out today. So, Wednesday, Kelsey, I'll let you take it.
All right. Of course, we'll have our weekly episode of Schmo Bates. This episode is going to be Finstock Exchange theme. I believe the co-host is Ben Bateman, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And...
Fair enough.
And then our competitors,
I wonder if we'll be wearing a suit.
It might just be a blazer.
Yeah, that's his new thing. It's just the blazer. Over whatever t-shirt he was wearing that day. And all right. And then our competitors, I know Andrew DeMolanta is one of them, and I believe Justin the Juice.
Justin the Juice is a Finstock Exchange fan. He wants to pop on, so he wants to go up against Andrew DeMolata. It's a good chance. Good chance for him.
It's going to be a really good episode.
And of course.
After that, I'm so sorry, Paul. After that, we will be doing our call to reaction match breakdown of the Andrew Gallegos, Adam Collins. That's his first name, right? Yeah, Adam Collins, who we've never seen play before in the Schmoedown. We haven't seen Andres Gallegos play in the Schmoedown either. So this is going to be the first play-in match. This is kicking off the singles tournament season. 4 matches a week. No one here is stressed out. We're all doing fine.
And we do have Andres as a guest for that as well. Andres will be guesting on that reaction show as well for his time on. We also, the whole week is again, we got hell week for reactors. There's so many matches, so many things we got to schedule. We love watching it. But trying to schedule the breakdowns, the reactions are tough. Thursday we'll do that. We'll actually break down the match for pretty much every day. This Thursday we're going to break down Wednesday's match. We'll be breaking down the James White versus Frank Moran. Might have a guest on that. We're still kind of nailing that down. Friday we'll have the breakdown with the Marisol McKee and Bonnie Somerville match, and then on Saturday we'll break down, because it's going to be live at that point. We're going to be breaking down the pay-per-view from last weekend, the Kevin Smith-Chandru match, and of course the final exam and the Pride. We do have Lon Harris joining us for the final exam in the Pride. We're still talking about a guest possibly for Smith-Chandru, but we'll get there.
Isn't this Friday Shazam versus Final Exam?
Yes, this Friday the pay-per-view with Dan Morrell and Shazam, and Shazam versus final exam. That's a fun match, right?
A fun match.
Ooh, it's really going to be interesting because I love the new character that Lon is playing.
Liquid. Oh god, yes.
In fact, I think that might actually be the real Lon. I think everything else might have been facade. It's the dumbest joke, but every time when they're playing, he's like, "Are we done yet? Wait, there's more?" Never ceases to make me laugh like a mental patient. Yeah, and Paul, they work really well together. Paul, I'm going to give props to Paul. I had some issues with some of the youngsters when they first started, mostly because they were the first generation of fans who started to play the game, so they were already doing the acting and weren't necessarily great at separating it, which was everybody. That's the learning curve. But I've grown to really enjoy Paul a lot. I think I had to keep reminding myself how young he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally probably older than his parents, which is wrong on every conceivable level. But I think it's going to be an interesting match because Bibbs gets in his head. And the kid is sort of like tofu. He absorbs the flavors he's around. And when Bibbs gets real agitated, the kid gets real agitated too.
Notice that.
And it's going to be really interesting because it's become about strategy. Now everybody is so good. Everybody has such a deep font of knowledge that strategy has to play a part in it. You know, you have to know how to use your JTE rules, know when to throw a challenge in there, know what kind of challenge you're throwing. Are you throwing a legitimate challenge because of a badly written question or a wrong answer? Or are you throwing a challenge to stop the momentum of the other team with a legitimate, like what I did with Paddington 2? Their answer was technically right. What graphic novel what Jim Carrey character was first appeared in the graphic novel series? And the answer was The Mask. But he didn't appear in a graphic novel. He was the backup in an anthology comic book. And now the comic book lexicon is in everybody's mouth. Graphic novels are different than comic books, and they still got the credit. But by doing that, it threw their momentum off.
That's become the game. That's what the game is now. You got to.
It took me 2 years to figure out how to play stuff like that. It's why I think that if there are people out there that really want to try and be Schmoedown competitors someday, watch the Smets Chandru match, because both of Chandru's challenges were valid. The challenge about Kobe Smulders was right on. She's not playing Maria Hill in Spider-Man Far From Home. She's playing a Skrull, pretending, and that's what Inner Geekdom's all about. That sort of minutia.
It's true, and that's
absolutely.
So,
okay. Eric Zipper says he prefers Paul's old partner. Eric, I understand that. So, good to see you, Eric.
Zipper's watching from the other room.
Here it is. He loves it.
He's watching from my red room.
He's giving you hell now. He's going to give you hell. Say she's credited as Maria. But okay, we'll go past that. Who do you got? I'm curious. Who do you got in those matches? Final exam versus Shazam?
It really, really depends. I think knowledge level, I think they're pretty close to being even. I think I would give maybe a little bit of an edge to Shazam, just because Bibbs has been doing this so long, and we've all been locked inside for months upon months. So who knows what sort of Howard Hughes jars of urine writing on the wall stuff that Bibbs has been doing, studying. The kid is a super student, but there's the wheel. There's spinner's choice. There's opponent's choice. There's you getting stuck on a shitty category or getting a category you think you're going to ace, and it's suddenly 4 questions. You're like, so there are so many variables. The important thing I think could be a deciding factor is trying to get perfect rounds.
Yes.
The most, as many points as you can get in that first round, even if you're just 2 points ahead in a game with this level of competitors, 2 points, 1 point could make the difference. So I honestly don't know. I think strictly on just knowledge without the technique and the strategy playing the game, I would give it just by a hair to Shazam. But Lon is such a weird character and such a really interesting character that can get under your skin in the right way. And and Bibbs beats himself up. If Bibbs gets something wrong that he thinks is easy, it's going to drive him crazy for the rest of the game.
You're not wrong. I think that's a good call.
But it's going to be a blast. It's going to be so much fun to watch. So far every single one of these has been
a lot of fun.
Real fun, because either it's 2 veterans going up against each other, or it's a new player, someone we don't know. Look at what Ace did in the. I couldn't give a shit about Star Wars, but damn, how did that happen? Good for him.
Shocked the world every time. It's like every match.
The Star Wars division is arguably the hardest Schmoedown division there is, because when I see Ken Knapsack not know the answers to questions, I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to try.
Not even absolutely. I wrote a book.
Yeah.
And who do you got for Merle and Erwin?
Once again, it depends. Ethan is unflappable, But when Ethan doesn't know something, he doesn't try. He's like, I don't know. He doesn't do the searching thing. It's like, oh, I don't know it.
Right.
And Dan, after that Ghai match, which is the second match I would advise everyone who ever wants to play Schmoedown watch Andrew Ghai versus Dan Murrell, because Andrew Ghai played the best match I have ever seen anyone play.
100 times.
And you know, Dan was like me in that Dan had been out of it for a while. So when he came back and there was suddenly all this level of performance and character and in your face, yeah, wait a minute, I'm just here to play trivia, guys. Why are you coming at me? So, but Drew was great. At that. So, you know, no one's infallible. And Dan is definitely arguably the greatest player we've ever had. But you know what he hasn't done in a while? He hasn't lost.
That's very true.
I don't doubt his strengths, but over the course of this, I've watched every season of Schmoedown, even back in the weird old days where it was like, you get 3 questions, you get 3 questions, and it was like 10 minutes long matches.
Right.
And Dan is not infallible. Dan is super, super knowledgeable. But the thing that's both the blessing and the curse about Dan when you're competing against him is he doesn't know what he doesn't know. So you can't study his weaknesses. There are just some blind spots he has on things, just random things, which is frustrating because there's no strategy for that. He might get Tarantino movies and might miss something that is easy.
Right.
You know, he might not know Red Apple cigarettes. You would assume he would, but that might be just one of those random glitches. And that's what makes him both a tough competitor but fallible. Achilles had a heel. Everyone does. So it'll be really interesting to see. And Ethan's been boning up on his strategy, so it'll be interesting to see him play, you know, that affable guy who's suddenly, you know, stabbing you in the ribs.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. And Dan's growing as a character. You know, Dan being a heel. I mean, just by being with Roka, he's absorbed some of that nonsense. So I think it'll be entertaining, and I think it'll be a really fun match. But both of them, and I know it sounds like I'm Miss America and trying to be very diplomatic. Either of those matches could go either way, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong.
A blowout will surprise me in either match.
Right.
But other than that, any of those people could win, and I would be like, oh, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, one last thing that we're going to plug before we go on to the chat questions, since we do that. Next week's Chill Action actually is not decided yet. We have feelers out there for 2 different people we're going to see. I'll let you know as soon as we know, but we do have the week after confirmed. It is our very special 1-year anniversary, 50th episode of Chilled Action. And let's play the tape, Kelsey. That's right. For one night only, Christian might not do it yet, but we're going to reunite Team Action to celebrate our anniversary. Since we started as an Action Army podcast, we're going to get our boys back together. So that's going to be a lot of fun, guys. A lot of fun.
Did you see the TikTok that Ben had to do?
Yeah, so
You know
good.
what? Wait 1 second. I'm going to do this.
Oh, do you have it? Please play it if you have it. It's my favorite thing.
I run their Patreon, so they actually do Action Industries on my channel, so my Streamlabs. So let me just find it. There it is. One of the greatest things that's ever been.
He only pretends he was forced to do that. There's like probably 9 hours of cut footage.
Look, I know how much goes into editing a TikTok video. He took time for that. He had to have enjoyed it.
And now the Chinese know what his social security number is.
That was Drew. Since he lost to Drew, that was Drew's plan the entire time, probably.
Oh, I see a question from Dean Morgan, and he's been asking all sorts of stuff. And he asked a question, and I hope he didn't feel like I was. He asked, I think, about a movie or something, and I went off on Baby Driver, so I hope he doesn't think he was attacked. If I wrote a female character from Marvel, since I've done Supergirl for DC, who would it be? I would love to do a Scarlet Witch in the Vision book.
Yes.
I grew up on those miniseries, and I just think they're fascinating. I would love. Everybody hates on Cyclops. I would love to do a Cyclops and Jean Grey book. Do like Heart to Heart, where they're like just gallivanting around the world, solving mysteries and being fabulous. Because I think Scott Summers is arguably one of the most important characters in the Marvel Universe. I think he is the Marvel Universe's Dick Grayson in the way that they both are so always putting everyone else before them and always trying to be what everyone else wants them to be, that they have no idea who they are. And I didn't get that until I wrote them both for the first time. I'm like, oh, I get it. They're trying to make everybody happy, and that makes no one happy.
Right.
I get it. So, but yeah, the Scarlet Witch, Jean Grey, She-Hulk would be a blast to write. She-Hulk would be an absolute blast to write.
She's a fun character.
But truthfully, when I get offered characters from the big two, sometimes it's characters I don't think that I would be offered, so that's the fun. Like Supergirl, I never thought I was going to write Supergirl, and I loved writing Supergirl. I would go back and write Supergirl again without batting an eyelash in a second and a half.
Alrighty, from Trash Panda with the super chat. What wheel slice would you add to the game?
There are a couple. I would add Stephen King. I think it's ridiculous there's not a Stephen King slice. There's a Stephen King slice. There's no Stephen King slice, and there's a Chris Nolan and Quentin Tarantino slice. There have been far more Stephen King movies. I'm just playing devil's advocate there. I would do an LGBT movie slice. I would do a John Waters slice.
Yes, please.
I would do a from page to screen slice. I would do a costume drama slice. I would do an Ang Lee slice. I would do a Sidney Pollack slice. I mean, I would do a Billy Wilder slice. You know, there are tons. Why isn't there a Betty and Joan slice?
Wow.
I mean, seriously.
No, I love that idea. The idea, because I feel like we'll draw the argument that you could against that. The slices have to be kind of broad in general for whatever. But having those unique slices like that makes the game so much more fun from a fan perspective.
But the thing is, I get not wanting it to be too much minutia, not wanting it to be was who made the bone china that Scarlett O'Hara served Rhett their first dinner on. I get that. But if we love movies, we need to love movies that were made a long time ago because they inform the movies that are made today. And if I'm going to be forced to answer 900 questions on The Sandlot and Major League, I sure as hell want some questions about Billy Wilder and Bette Davis movies, because arguably those two people are far more important than Major League or Sandlot, no matter how good those movies may be in the history of cinema. Those two movies wouldn't exist if those other two things didn't. And I get you want to have enough questions that your audience feels they can compete. But you know what? There are nights when I watch Jeopardy and I can't answer a single question. And there are nights when I watch Jeopardy and I can answer every single question. So I would rather hear someone complain that they're always talking about old movies and then find out they actually went and watched that old movie.
That's great.
Because just because it's old don't mean it's bad. Generally, they're really good. You know, I mean, there are some movies that are so part of our pop culture that they all feel almost cliche. Casablanca is one of them. Watch Casablanca. It's fucking amazing. It transcends all that play it again, Sam stuff that we've all seen ad nauseum. It's an amazing, beautiful, romantic, insanely good film. And if you claim to love film, you don't have to like everything, but any sort of thing you're interested in should be like a salad bar. You should try as many different flavors as you can. You're not going to like everything, nor should you, but you should have a knowledge of things. And you can go back to the 3 things you like for the rest of your life, but try things. It just as a general rule in life, try something different. Expand your horizons. The water's warm. Come on in. The pool is fine. I promise. Try to learn something.
I love it.
At most, you don't like it, you don't go back to it.
Yeah, and that's fine. We've also got to get over the fact that there are things that you don't like that are awful, but there are things that you don't like that doesn't. Not everything you don't like is bad. I haven't liked the last 4 Steven Spielberg movies. That doesn't mean they're badly made. They're technically perfect. They just don't appeal to me as a viewer. I cannot like something and not, I don't like avocados. I'm the only person in California that doesn't. But that doesn't mean just because I don't like it doesn't mean I want them banned.
Right. Good call.
We have this weird tribalism that it's either everything's great or awful. All sorts of degrees. I want everyone to like things. I don't like going to a movie and saying I didn't like it. I want them to all be great. I don't seek out bad things. But by the same token, if I see something that fails on levels to me, I'll talk about it because that's what's fun. Talking about, especially if someone loves the movie that you don't. That's always the best conversation because it goes back to what I said about empathy. You get to understand why that person liked that movie. And you might not agree with it, but you're like, oh, I can see why that works for them.
Absolutely. I love talking to people for exactly that reason. We just got to get over the idea that you don't have
debate is not insult.
Right.
Debate is not personal. Two of my best friends and I get into knockdown, screaming, bloody murder opinions about movies. And then we're done and we laugh. It's not about that. Right. And it's also a way to cheat an argument if you start taking things personally.
110%.
You need to take a debate class to learn that because you might not agree with me politically, but that doesn't. And now if you don't agree, if you're on that side, I don't want to talk to you. But in a vacuum, when there are rational differences in parties, I don't want everyone to believe everything I say. I'm not always right. I am not the smartest person in the room. If I am the smartest person in the room, go somewhere else. It's just a matter of the older I get and the closer I get to the final off ramp as opposed to getting on the freeway, it's just easier to try and be pleasant and try and not be confrontational as a starting point. Don't get me wrong. You fuck with someone I care about, I will stalk you to the ends of the earth. But I don't want to be that person. I don't choose to be that person unless I absolutely have to be. And I think so many of us think there's some sort of glamour in being a martyr and being, I'm so busy and life is so hard. Yeah, life is hard for everybody. I know Oscar winners who are suicidal. So everybody is going through it. Just don't be a dick. That's all that you need to do. Don't be a dick. It's that simple.
That is it. Don't be a dick.
That is going to be what we flip out. It'll be Marc and Draco. Don't be a dick.
I like it. That's a shirt. That's like a shirt.
That is a shirt.
So, there's one great John Waters quote I want to talk about before we're out for the evening because there's a couple quotes that I want on my gravestone. One is from Oscar Wilde. That was, if you don't have anything nice to say about someone, come sit next to me. And my favorite John Waters quote is from Pink Flamingos. The Mink Stole character says, there are two kinds of people in this world, my kind and assholes. I'm like, yeah. Yep.
Fair enough.
And I would like a John Waters slice because I would like some people to experience his movies.
Yeah.
I like when someone introduces me to someone new. I mean, when I was a kid and I used to go to record stores back in the days when we rode dinosaurs, there was nothing better than finding a band that had 13 albums out and you could buy one a week with your allowance or your paper route money. And you're like, oh, you got to discover. So I like when people give me new directors to discover or new writers or new actors. And I think in this day and age, John Waters is so gleeful and filthy. It's not lascivious. It's joyous and it celebrates the underdog. I mean, his most subversive movie is arguably Hairspray. He made a PG family film that is one of the most subversive, most powerful films about racism and segregation and body positivity. I just watched it last week with a friend of mine, and I was amazed at how much stuff is in that movie that wasn't intended. Just Ricky Lake and Divine.
Yes.
How many girls didn't have eating disorders because they saw that representation on film? I would argue that Hairspray is a better film about racism and desegregation than Mississippi Burning.
Wow.
Because Mississippi Burning it's a well-made film, but it's two white guys talking about racism.
Not wrong.
Hairspray isn't about that. It isn't about, but it's inherently about that. It's the spoonful of sugar with no medicine. It's an enjoyable, funny movie. And when you come home, you're like, oh yeah, that's stupid. Why are they doing that? Whereas opposed to, I find movies like Mississippi Burning, those Oscar bait movies, a little didactic for my taste. It's like, we're going to tell you something good for you. Yeah, racism's bad. I know.
Get it. Got it. Yeah.
All right, Kel's got some quick super chats in the Streamlabs in there for
We
you.
got some Streamlabs. We have two
I'm
from
talking. I'm talking way too much, right?
Oh,
No,
no, you're
no,
fine. We love it.
Sure, we love it more. Like,
Mark, really quickly, I do want to ask. I did put it in the private chat, but I just want to ask you right now. You're good on time. We're good with time.
Yeah, we can wrap whatever questions people paid for. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So the two from Ferris are, first one's just hello.
Hello.
And second one is, hey Mark, big fan. I just want to tell you that I believe you're a great dude. The thing I love about you is that you're raw and honest, and that you have I have seen, because it is in this space. People can be liars, but all I have seen from you is the real, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Once again, it's not because I'm a great moral paragon. I'm just too tired to hide. I wish I was an enigma wrapped in a riddle, sprinkled with mystery. This is what you get. You know, the ingredients are this. You know.
Next one is from Kaiser. It says, and Draco is on the Schmoedown World Tour. Like, he's got a new Mission Impossible movie dropping this summer. Mission Impossible 7, Grow a Pair.
Kaiser.
Oh, but Henry Cavill's character died. I'd have to bring him back to life.
Right?
You can make that work. Time with the new stunt one.
I'll just watch him reload his arms for days.
Yes.
Yeah, at this point, I'm old enough where it's like I just want to watch. If Henry Cavill would do my laundry in a Speedo, I would be happy.
That's the next video after the building a PC. Now it's just going to be doing your laundry.
All right. Next one's from Styler
Is that
Moose.
is that an artisanal Overlook Hotel beer drink you're drinking?
No, it's
It's a cozy.
I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was Overlook beer. I mean,
Yeah, big Tradic Biz.
All right. From Styler
you guys love Dr. Sleep?
I love Dr. Sleep.
I adore Dr. Sleep.
I thought it was fun. I really liked it.
And Rebecca Ferguson. If we're ever allowed to have Halloween again, every drag queen in America is going to go as Rose the Hat. I might go and drag as Rose the Hat. Be like, wow, but hello there. Oh, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh,
She's gorgeous and terrifying at the same time. I love her so much.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I could do that.
And she's Paul Atreides' mother.
Yes.
In Dune. Are you kidding me?
Every Mission Impossible.
I love her.
Amazing.
She's great in The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
Even though that movie has zero to do with reality. And I get it. I didn't go to a Christmas musical with Hugh Jackman about P.T. Barnum for verisimilitude and facts. And it works if you go in and watch that movie as like the best musical of 1958, it's a delight.
I agree with that.
But do not research P.T. Barnum at all, because he was an awful. He tried to repent a little before he died, but he had a slave, and when she died, he sold tickets to her autopsy.
Yep.
Oh, God.
He was a terrible person.
He was garbage. And that's one to grow on. Anyway, I'll shut up. What are the other questions?
Right.
You got another one.
Next one's from Stylen Moose. Have you watched Stargirl? If so, what do you think of the show?
I have watched the first 2 episodes of Stargirl because there is so much other stuff going on, and I didn't have the DC app, so I was stockpiling them. I've known Jeff Johns forever. I've known Jeff 21 years now. And actually, when I first met Jeff, I actually said to him, we had something in common. His sister, Courtney, who was the inspiration for Stargirl, died in a plane explosion in a TWA flight when she was 14, I believe. And when I was in college in 92, my best friend died in a plane crash at LaGuardia Airport. So he was the person that I met that I could say, I don't take any joy in this, but I can honestly say to you, I know how you feel. So there was that sort of bonding. And, and you can tell, the episodes I've seen of Stargirl, you can tell it comes from a place that's really deeply emotionally important for him. And what a great way to memorialize his sister. She gets to be a superhero in the DC universe. She's immortal now. So I have not watched them all, but it scratches all my itches. The JSA, I would challenge Jeff in a knife fight during the Justice Society because I love that stuff. So
Right.
All right, awesome.
I didn't know that before, but that makes me want to watch the movie or watch the show for sure.
All right.
All right, next one from Ryan Chandler says, "What's up, Kelsey, Danny, PLD, and Mark? Hey, Mark, loved watching you in the latest horror Schmoedown maps. Congrats. Show a lot of tips from the Dark Side movie questions. Wouldn't you agree? What's your favorite Stephen King movie? Thanks, Mark."
What's my favorite? Well, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, is a delicious disaster. It is. It's got like Julianne Moore is in it. Dorothy Lamour is in it. A sentient garbage bag in a lake is in it. A questionable wooden Indian is in it. And a dead homeless zombie who just says, "Thanks for the ride, lady." No, I'm sorry. I'm flipping. I see. Creepshow 2 and Tales from the Dark Side are the same movie. They're both such garbage, but delicious. Tales from the Dark Side is Christian Slater, right? And Debbie Harry has got the kid locked in the.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's the one. Yeah,
yeah. And that Julianne Moore is in that. Julianne Moore and Steve Buscemi, because there's a mummy in it. But my favorite Stephen King movies are probably, I think, The Dead Zone is an amazing film that no one talks about. It's easily David Cronenberg's best film. And if it came out today, Christopher Walken and Martin Sheen would both not only be nominated, but they would both win Oscars. And Martin Sheen is playing, if Donald Trump was a little bit smarter in this movie, very little bit. And Christopher Walken is just, it's a performance for the ages. I love It, Chapter 1. Yeah. I love all the changes they made. I think by moving it into the 80s, it actually makes the story more what King wanted by making the fears personal instead of just horror movie monsters. You know, the fact that Bev isn't scared of Pennywise because her father's molesting her, and that's done so subtly that if you're a kid, if you're 10 or younger and you're just like horror movies, you won't get it. But when you get it, she's like, of course she doesn't care about a fucking clown. Her father's been raping her. And it's handled in such a subtle, beautiful way that never feels cheap or exploitive. I love Carrie. I love the De Palma Carrie because it's batshit crazy. What other Stephen King movies? The Mist, I think, is fantastic. I think Frank Darabont's ending, he makes the ending of that movie more depressing than the book. And that movie came out on Christmas Day. I remember seeing that in the theater. And I know Frank a little. And after I saw him, I said, "I want to give you a hug." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because not only did you make The Mist better, but you made it so dark and horrifyingly depressing. On Christmas Day, I was in the theater and it was full. And the credits start, and everyone's just like, and then I started laughing like Robert De Niro in Cape Fear, because I was like, he did this on purpose. That's fucking brilliant.
I love.
Oh, it's Marcia Gay Harden. If I wanted a friend like you, I'd squat down and shit one out. Spoken like the true Christian woman you are. So good, so good. But I would say if you're looking for a Stephen King movie you haven't seen, seek out The Dead Zone. The Dead Zone is really, really wonderful. It's a really, really spectacular film.
Storytelling, yes.
I love that question. Love that answer.
Yeah, Dr. Sleep actually improves on the book.
I think it does do it in many ways. I think it does.
And watch the director's cut. Watch the 6-episode version as opposed to what was released theatrically. I love them both, but the movie is paced like the book. The reason the movie didn't connect with a lot of people is because it's very methodically paced. It's paced like the Kubrick one. And unfortunately, audiences don't have attention spans now, but at home, the cut Flanagan did with the 6 episodes and the title cards, oh, it's so good. So
yeah.
I've seen the director's cut, so I'm going to make that a point to do that.
Actually, yeah, I just thought I've been waiting. I'm watching the director's cut this week, so I'm waiting to do that, definitely.
Watch the regular cut first, and then watch the director's cut, because I think you'll appreciate the amount of subtle work that went into the difference, because it's not like there's a big 1 hour added chunk. It's just little bits here and there and pieces, and it just is really, really. And then we have The Stand coming up in November on CBS All Access. Josh Boone's The Stand. And The Stand will probably finish airing all 10 episodes before New Mutants comes out.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, that's going to be all of our pit. I want to throw that up there. Nerd Chronic. We always love seeing Eric Rodriguez, one of the greatest guys in the Schmoedown community. Love seeing Andreyko versus Bibbs in a horror Iron Man match.
We talked about it. I want to do, since they did the Jurassic Park and Rocky Iron Man matches, I want to write the questions and find competitors to do a Friday the 13th Iron Man match.
I watch that.
Because I love those movies. At least except for Goes to Hell and the reboot, which was not a Friday the 13th movie.
Oh, it wasn't at all. Yeah, sure. At least I did a marathon of all the movies before the 9th one, the Goes to Hell, came out. I was really.
Oh, that one's awful. But the first 7, I got to write the origin of Mrs. Voorhees when Wildstorm had the Friday the 13th license. So I want to make that movie. I really, really, when the rights get settled, I want to bug my agent and manager and be like, get me a meeting with whoever. I know how to make this franchise work cheap.
I'm all for it. Definitely all for it.
The first rated R movie I saw in the theater was Friday the 13th. I had to get straight A's, and my mom took me to see it. So, and those first 2 really do feel like summer camp. They smell like mildew and pee and wood. I mean, they really. You're like, although I don't understand. I just rewatched the second one. I'm like, why is there a counselor in a wheelchair when all they have are gravel trails, and steps?
It's a good call.
Fair point.
Where is he just gonna be out on the pier? He's just gonna be watching. He can't save the kids if they drown, and he certainly can't. It's like, how does he get anywhere in that movie? But
what a great Marc Andreyko movie critic origin story.
Perfect. All right, we do have one more that just came in. If we get one more question in.
We have one final question came in from Thrawn. The school I work at is currently working on finding new ways to further discuss and revamp curriculum to be more inclusive as many perspectives as possible. Can you recommend any must-see films that are PG-13 or under? We can't do our.
I think you should show, and you might have to censor some of the language, bleep some of the language, but both the documentaries, The Celluloid Closet and Disclosure, which is currently on Netflix, are phenomenal documentaries. The Celluloid Closet is based on a book written by a man named Vito Russo, who was a gay film critic and one of the founding members of ACT UP in the 80s, who was one of the first people to die of AIDS in the crisis. And his book was about gay presentation in film, and his book is very angry. The documentary is narrated by Lily Tomlin, and it covers gays in film since Thomas Edison's first film, which was Two Men Dancing, while another played the fiddle, all the way up to Philadelphia when the movie came out, like 95. It's a very entertaining movie. It will open your eyes. If you're a straight person and you think you're woke, to use the kids' jargon, you'll be amazed at how not woke you are when you see. And this isn't a blaming movie. It's a very entertaining movie, but they do a little montage in the middle, and it's movies in the 70s and 80s where it's like faggot, dyke, homo. It just lists them, and you see things like, oh wow, Teen Wolf is a really homophobic movie. Monster Squad is a very homophobic movie. It's just they weren't then, but watching them now. And Disclosure is the same movie, but it's about trans characters in entertainment, and it is a phenomenally entertaining film. It's an uncomfortable film because it made me realize some of my, even though I'm a gay dude, I'm also a white man in America. It made me realize some of the biases that I've just absorbed by living in America. And I've said this on other podcasts, and I'll say it here. My trans friends are probably the bravest people I know. The number 1 and 2 causes of death of trans people are murder and suicide. And I can't even begin to understand the trans experience. And to vilify and demonize people for that is utterly unacceptable. And I always joke that if I was a politician, I would have the Secret Service would all be trans people, because if they've lived to adulthood, they know how to fight and they know how to survive. And I am trying to inform myself to be a better ally to trans people, because I veered away from it for fear of doing it incorrectly. And there's so little, as someone who grew up watching every bad gay independent film ever made because of representation, if I could get all those hours of my life back, I'd live to be 150. But I was actually doing a panel in a convention in Phoenix a few years back, and a person in the audience asked about trans characters, and I said I'm really nervous to put a trans character in because it's not my story to tell, and I don't want to do it poorly. And a trans woman in the audience stood up and said, "Fuck you, you're a coward. Write honest characters." And she didn't, and she said it just like that. Yeah. And I said, "You're absolutely goddamn right." Wow. If I do my due diligence and try and write real people, not saints and not victims, it's never going to get better because there weren't gay characters didn't achieve prevalence until straight people started putting them in movies. There's an evolutionary chart for all minorities, and now it's the trans time, and it's like I said, you know this if you have a trans child, the amount of character and fortitude and just bravery. I will, on my bravest day, I'm not as brave as my trans friends have been on their weakest day.
110%. 110%. All I can do, all I try to do, all you can do as an ally is just offer support. Be there.
Yeah. Well, as an ally in general, whether it's trans, whether it's race, whether it's gender, white people need to say, I'm sorry if I made your life harder. How can I help? And sit down and shut up and take notes. Because if you're born white in America, it's like being born a great white shark. You're an apex predator. And we don't, and not everybody knows their level of entitlement. I certainly didn't until you experience it. There's nothing wrong. You're not flawed because you have that. We grew up soaking in it. Being aware of it and reaching out, and that's why these past couple of months, even though I think we needed to have a Trump in order to have, you can't have a Renaissance without a dark age, and we are in the darkest of dark ages right now. And hopefully, everyone will emerge a little bit more empathic and a little bit more aware of how important interaction with one another is. Because I'm nowhere near the misanthrope I thought I was. I'm like, shit, I need to see people. I'm like, normally I'm like, I literally have a t-shirt that says, fuck you, I have enough friends. and now it's like, I guess I can't wear that anymore. Oh, shit. So.
Well, maybe that's the silver lining. Maybe that we are in the dark ages. It will lead to something more.
I hope I didn't pontificate too much. I hope this didn't feel like a revival meeting from me. I didn't mean to just vomit forth things. I hope your audience isn't completely bored or disgusted.
Our audience has stayed with us the entire time. They've been saying throughout the chat they're throwing up a lot. Trans Lives Matters. Now they're there the entire time because it's important. I like to think that our audience is those type of people who are very open to that and very wanting to be.
Well, that's also what's great about the Action Army. When I did, there's a fan, a member of the Action Army named Caroline, a trans woman, and I love that there are trans fans of those two characters. It's sort of Charlotte. It's sort of like watching those two black brothers who are reacting to songs.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
They've watched Pavarotti. They watched Dolly Parton do Jolene. I recommended the Eurythmics, and they did Sweet Dreams. Watching these two kids enjoy music with no preconceived notions, I literally cried with joy watching those kids because and I go down a rabbit hole and I'll watch hours and hours of them reacting because it's like the first one I saw was them reacting to Rainy Days and Mondays by Karen Carpenter, and I'm like, oh, this is going to get ugly,
right?
And they were like, one of them had tears in his eyes. They're like, listen to her voice. Watch Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You" for the first time. Holy shit. And they're just delightful. It's just delightful that these two, I'm assuming from their dialects, urban black kids, we all have preconceived notions of what an urban black kid with a do-rag is, all the Karens and all the scared people. And watching them watch Pavarotti and watching them watch Aerosmith and watching them watch Dolly Parton and watching them watch Cyndi Lauper and watch them enjoy this stuff. Watch them watch Prince. They watch Prince do "Let's Go Crazy," and it's like they haven't seen it. And it's just so it will. If you're having a bad day, it's their hashtag is #twins is the new trend, I think.
I think so.
And the one they got the most press for this past weekend was they watched Phil Collins in the Air Tonight. And they're watching and then 3 minutes in it goes, and they're like, whoa! You actually see their minds get blown. And it's like, yes, that's what art is. Art connects us all. It transcends color, economic status, gender, anything. And it's just so nice to see something that joyous. And it makes me listen to songs I haven't heard in a long time. So I recommend everybody go watch them. You will have the best time.
That's their channel, by the way.
I saw a couple of the Dolly Parton ones.
Oh, Jolene.
Yeah,
them watching Jolene and then watching 9 to 5. Oh,
yes, those specifically are so good.
I bet you, if she tours again, if we're allowed to do that again, I bet you she invites them backstage because I got to see her in concert. Because after Prince and Bowie died, I was like, shit, these people aren't going to be around forever. I need to see these people. And I saw Dolly Parton. She's 78 years old. She performed at the Hollywood Bowl for 2 hours and 45 minutes. It was her and 4 other musicians. And she is everything you want her to be. You know, she's given away over 10 million books to poor children through her foundation.
Dolly Parton is the best ever.
There are poor kids who get a book every month from her.
I love that.
That's something phenomenal.
She's just awesome. She's the best.
She really is.
Wow.
And I'm going to give you one old movie suggestion. In addition to watching these twins make you happy, watch 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, and Dabney Coleman. When I teach screenwriting, it's one of the scripts I use. It is a near perfectly structured screenplay. It is hilariously funny. It is beautifully moving, and it has not aged a day. The time, it definitely takes place in the early 80s, but none of that prevents any enjoyment. And all 3 of those fucking women, I could watch them wash clothes for 3 hours. You are watching 3 geniuses. It's so good. It's so good. And it's such a delightful film.
It really is. Did you watch anything from Jane and Frankie? What's the name of it?
Grace and Frankie? Yes, I did. If you're going to watch Grace and Frankie, power through the first 5 or 6, because the first 5 and 6 very much feel like network sitcom stuff. But once Marta Kaufman said, I have Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Martin Sheen, and Sam Waterston, I'm going to let them go. It's hilarious. And once again, if you have an older mother, let her watch it. It is one of the most empowering things for older women being considered being sexual beings and fighting ageism. And it's hilarious. And it's a masterclass. Those 2 women literally have almost 2 centuries of experience in the arts. And I'm so glad Jane Fonda's back. I forgot how versatile she is. Watch Grace and Frankie, watch 9 to 5, and watch The Morning After. And the fact that that's the same woman in all 3 movies, you're going to be like, okay, I will. If I was ever considering trying acting, nope.
Done.
Jane Fonda is a treasure to this world also. So that's
Who is?
Jane Fonda.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I really do recommend The Morning After. It was the last movie she was nominated for an Oscar for. She plays a washed-up B-movie actress who's a blackout drunk, and she wakes up in a strange man's apartment one morning in bed, and she pulls back the covers, and he's dead with a knife in his chest, and she doesn't remember anything. And it's her, the late Raul Julia, Jeff Bridges. It's so good. And once again, she's playing a not very intelligent or educated woman, and Jane Fonda is anything but that. And you completely buy this performance. And Jeff Bridges, it's a really, really good, smart thriller. It's the kind of movie that studios don't make anymore, because if it took place on a solar flare station with giant monsters, they would. But movies about people reacting like people are the places of Netflix now and streaming. But I guarantee you, if you stream or rent Morning After, you will not regret it. You'll be like, oh damn, how did this movie exist for so long and I didn't know it was there?
Recommendations. All right, Danny.
That's it? Is that it?
That's it. That's all the questions we got.
That's going to be it. That's everything from the questions. That's everything from the chat. Thank you so much to everyone inside of the chat. We really appreciate you as always. And you know me. You can find me, your girl, Danny Joy, on Twitter at DannyJoy, DannyJoy. You can also find me here every Monday hanging out with my favorite co-host right up there, Mr. Paul Denizio, on Chill to Action on the Call to Action Network. All of that good, great stuff. So you know what it is. Y'all go and follow me there for all of that stuff. Paul, where can the people find you?
Paul Denizio on Twitter. You can find me here every week with my favorite co-host, Danny Joy. You can also find me on Class Action on the Action Industries YouTube channel. I do a show on Ben and Drew's channel with my friend Richard Eric Jarvie. It's a lot of fun on there. And I have opened up my own YouTube channel recently called PLD Projects. Look for the Harris-Stan, still coming soon, where I go through every movie that Ed Harris has ever been in, and I make you love him as much as I do.
Including Creepshow?
Absolutely.
What about Knight Riders?
Knight Riders is one of my first. I can't wait to talk about Knight Riders. I love Knight Riders.
I love Knight Riders.
That's it.
And him in Creepshow is amazing. The worst, whitest dancer of all time. Makes me feel like I am Savion Glover watching him dance in that movie.
That is so true. At least we have the Knight Riders one actually somewhere. There it is. That's the one I'm looking at. There's Ed Harrison Knight Riders. It's a great film.
Oh, it's so good. I might watch that. I might watch that now. I might pull that out of the shelf.
Don't give Paul that much power. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Isn't it amazing that Ed Harris's career goes from Creepshow and Knight Riders to The Hours?
Right?
That, ladies and gentlemen, is versatility.
I said he can put him in any movie and he'll make it better. That's all, as I've always said. So
That's very true, and I absolutely agree with that. Kelsey,
He's like garlic.
Yes.
You can never go wrong with either one of them.
I agree. 100%. I agree. Yes.
perfect.
All right. You can find me at KelseyKins90 on Twitter and Instagram. Also on the Call to Action Podcast Instagram, so you can interact with me there. TeePublic, we've got merch, we've got masks. Wear your masks. And I also have a Twitch stream now. It's at Kelsey Kins Gamer. I play a lot of DC-related games, Arkham. I'm doing Injustice right now, which is one of my favorite games of all time. So please watch me terribly fight other people on that game. So see you around there.
All right.
Yes. And Mark, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, thank you. This was a blast.
This was a blast. This was an amazing conversation. We never really get to deep dive into real world stuff like this. So having your perspective on it and having like such a positive perspective on it means a lot to me.
And if you didn't like, if you're a viewer and you didn't like my political talk, don't blame those guys. Come after me. Come after me.
No,
They're just the hosts. I'm the rude guest.
No, not at all.
Bring it. I can handle it. Trust me.
Yeah, it's totally fine, y'all. Everything that Mark said on this show is totally fine.
Same too. You can come on.
Well, I wasn't implying you didn't agree with me, but I just wanted to say that
Oh,
I know you're
Mark,
smart.
Just in case.
let us know where we can find you and plug anything that you have going on. What do you got going on?
You can find me on Twitter and Facebook. And yeah, if you are remotely right wing, you do not want to follow me. I will just give you angina. And I don't want you to follow. And I don't want you to follow me either because you'll give me angina. I've got a bunch of stuff going on. I've got a couple of comic book things in the works, a couple other media things in the works. I know I sound like every other dickhead in Hollywood when I'm like, I can't talk about this stuff. But it's like. The metaphor I use is I peed on the stick, I'm pregnant. I'm not picking out baby clothes yet. So hopefully in the next couple of months, there'll be some big things to announce. But having been doing this for a while, they could all evaporate like mist. So I try not to, until the check has cleared, it's not real.
Never count the money.
I speak from experience. I had a project. We had sold Torso, the book I did with Brian Bendis. It's based on the true story of Elliot Ness in Cleveland, Ohio in the 30s. And one of the first big serial killer cases in the country. And David Fincher was going to direct it, and it was going to be Matt Damon, Gary Oldman, Casey Affleck, and Rachel McAdams. And this was back when Casey and Gary didn't have their issues with women so publicly. So it was a good thing. And Paramount greenlit it for 12 hours. So as I was leaving to go pick up my mid to high six-figure check, my lawyer called and said, "You're never gonna believe." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I was like, "Can I have something in my career not be a Trivial Pursuit question? Like, what was the only time a studio greenlit a huge movie and changed their mind?" It was like, Lucy didn't just take the football out from in front of me. She filled it with AIDS needles and rusty nails and anticoagulants and a bomb. So.
Owed something then from life there. Karma should be able to.
It's all part of this weird, I ask for no sympathy. It's a fun story that I tell in perspective. It wasn't fun at the time, but how many people can say that they almost had a check for $750,000 disappear in front of them?
Definitely not the rest of us
I
here.
didn't even get to gamble it away or use it on sex workers. It was just like
getting rid of it.
That's also something that the rest of us here might have done. But who?
Oh, well, next time I want to interview you guys then.
Fair enough.
Good luck with that. But thank you all so much again for hanging out with us tonight on this happy Monday. We really appreciate you all coming in every single Monday for the past almost a year now. Can't believe it. So as always, for everyone in the C2A crew, for everyone in the Action Army, thank you, Schmoedown fam. We love you. And as always, we salute
You the
Well, it has to